I have clicked onto the global tropical overview for May the 17th, 2024. As is always the case in these videos, athletic pressure are mine alone, and in making decisions ahead of any tropical cyclones, look toward your local office, local emergency management, and local tropical cyclone warning center. So we have several systems still active in the tropics today, and we're going to focus on the northern hemisphere today, particularly in the North Indian Ocean and West Pacific, as we are getting more increasing signs, especially in the North Indian Ocean, of a system that could develop there and could significantly impact a lot of land areas. And same in the West Pacific, but not to as big of a degree as in the North Indian Ocean. We're going to talk about all this today. We're going to start in the East Pacific. I'll leave timestamps so you can go to the other two systems if you would like to. Let's go ahead and get started. As we finish off day 2 of hurricane season here in the East Pacific, you can see that we're still looking at the same general picture, the intertropical convergence zone coming here towards Central America, and it's very convectively active here near Mexico and Central America as it transforms into the monsoon trough. And now the system that we've been mainly watching for the past several days is been this general massive thunderstorm activity south of Guatemala and has been coming east from Central America over the past few days. Though one system that may catch your eyes immediately is this little low here on the western end of the monsoon trough. You can see it has a pretty good spin with it, and it looks at first glance like the system could be close to being a tropical cyclone. Now, we did get an ASCAT pass that passed through the system, and I wish I pulled it up, but the ASCAT pass showed that the low-level center was actually fairly well defined. It wasn't perfect. It still had certainly a bit of work to do, but it was certainly getting there, and with the continued convective bursts we were seeing during the day, it certainly had a chance to become a brief tropical cyclone. Now, right now, the convection is waning a little bit. That may be an effect of just the sun setting over the region, but it also may be an effect of some more interaction with this main system off towards the east, and this may be its detrimental impact to hold it back from being a brief tropical cyclone. There is still a chance, and it currently gives this system about a 20% chance of doing so, but regardless if it does become one or not, the system's not really going to be much of an impact to any land areas, as compared to this system further east, which may still bring some land impacts just given how broad it is. You can see how broad the low is, and we even have some thunderstorms on the northeastern end of the monsoon trough here, bringing rainfall over Central America. Now, the models are still very split on exactly what they want to happen with this system. Particularly with the GFS, we've seen a significant shift in the past one model run. And I specify one model run, and that's very important, and I'll talk about that in just a little bit. But you can see this is the 18Z run from the GFS. The latest one came out about 2 hours ago from the time of this recording. And on this run, we have more of a broad circulation that forms. Well, broad circulation has always been forming on this, but if we go further into the run, which is past 5 days now, you really don't notice any tropical development with this system. In fact, the GFS just fails to develop this into really much of anything significant compared to, say, prior runs, where if we start here again at 5 days, we had, hurricanes, even close to major hurricanes by day 5. This is quite a shift on the GFS. Now, I wouldn't call this a trend just yet. This is one model run, so things, of course, may change. It may, at the next run, be right back to saying major hurricane by 5 days. But it is something of note, and it may be the GFS's attempt to come more towards a European. I talked about yesterday how the GFS often does go aggressive with these things, and the European also does go a little bit lenient. And I think, and it still holds true tonight, that I think one thing that we'll see out of this system entirely will be something in the middle of these two models. A weaker tropical storm, maybe getting to Category 1 hurricane if it can develop early enough, but not a major hurricane. And I don't know right now if we're going to see a solution to where we don't get anything at all like the GFS and European are showing right now. And this may be an attempt of the GFS to try and come towards the idea of the European, maybe showing a more realistic scenario here. Now, also, it could be maybe some form of impact with this low here on the western end of the monsoon trough. Maybe some form of impact of this is having a change with the eastern lobe, And maybe something there is causing some trouble for the system to develop on the GFS model. We'll see what happens in coming runs, but just an interesting note that we've seen today. Now, as of right now, the NHC maintains moderate odds of development. They're giving this system here in orange of about 40% chance of developing, and you can see this other low here, 20%. And you can see the development area there remaining offshore. But given how broad it is, we could still get some rainfall. As you can see, we're still getting rainfall here across Central America, and that could easily lead to some flooding issues, just given the high topography in this area of the world. All right, now we're going to move off towards the North Indian Ocean as we have potential for tropical development here as we go into next week, particularly mid to late next week, as we're going to be looking towards a strong westerly wind burst taking place as the MJO, currently favoring the Southwest Indian Ocean here, moves east. And you can see the westerly wind burst here on the GFS ensemble zonal wind anomaly plot, which is basically just horizontal winds along the world. And you can see the red here denoting a very strong westerly wind burst. And up north, you have easterly trade winds creating a belt of cyclonic flow across really the entire Bay of Bengal and even into portions of the Arabian Sea. And you can see as a result of that, you have a lot of ensemble members from the GFS showing potential for tropical development here. And this would make sense as climatologically, this would be favored for this time of year. Like I said yesterday, you usually get something like this every year in the Indian Ocean around May. This is not anything new. And alongside that, the environment is looking to be fairly favorable for development, which is why you're seeing so many of these ensemble members form into a tropical cyclone. Now, one aspect of this will be that the system is likely going to be broad. You can see that here, if you look at the westerly wind burst again, how we have this broad low here, this broad cyclonic spin area, and how that's already a very broad area of low pressure. And if we go into the parent run of the GFS, once it's actually formed, you can see just how broad the low is. We've got a low stretching pretty much across the entirety of the Bay of Bengal. And this would be a system that, once formed into a tropical cyclone, would likely not be rapidly intensifying, just given the size, but it could easily be bringing a lot of heavy rainfall to lots of areas along the coastline of the Bay of Bengal and the Andaman Sea. And that's likely going to be the main issue here. The wind is likely going to be kept mainly to this part here. You can see where the vorticity or spin is focused here on the GFS model. Wherever this lobe goes, that will be the most significant wind impact. But rainfall-wise, it's going to be a very large region for potential impacts. Now, as of right now, it is a little bit too early still to give any specific details on where the system could track. You can see the spread here on the European ensemble, with all kinds of different tracks stretching from landfalls in Myanmar to landfalls in Bangladesh to landfalls all the way down the coast of India. And even some ensemble members, and the GFS has some of these too, showing maybe something trying to form as well in the Arabian Sea. Could this potentially take dominance as well over a Bay of Bengal system? I'd say it's within a realm of possibility, but I think mainly we're looking for something here in the Bay of Bengal. Now, again, rainfall is going to be the most important impact here, and you can see this is the rainfall forecast from the GFS ensembles over the next 2 weeks. Now, of course, don't take this as something that's exactly going to happen. There's a lot of things that can change, and the exact track of the storm will change the exact forecast of rainfall. But this is just to give you a general idea of what we could be looking at with this system. And you can see a large region of significant rainfall, potentially large areas exceeding 100 millimeters of rainfall across a large portion of India, Bangladesh, Myanmar, and surrounding countries. So we'll continue to watch this system as it does develop, but we're not done, as we'll be also going to the West Pacific, as we could see some development as the MJO continues progressing east out of the Indian Ocean. You can see it here on this forecast from the GFS ensembles, and you can see right now favoring the Indian Ocean in regions 2 and 3, but eventually as we get into late May, we are looking towards it coming into regions 4 and 5, which favors more Indonesia and the West Pacific. And you can see this here as well on the European model. And as it does so, we're going to watch mainly down here south of the Mariana Islands, as we have still a weak broad low here sitting from the last westerly wind burst event. And this system is going to be moving north, and as it does so, the environment will likely be favorable for tropical development to occur. And you can see this here on the European ensemble, like I showed you yesterday. Lots of tracks here moving north and forming the system into a tropical cyclone. And you can also see the, I thought I pulled it up, but you can see here the ensemble tracks from the GFS also showing significant potential of tropical cyclone formation here in the West Pacific. Now, again, the main question here in the West Pacific would be where this system is going. And similar to the North Indian Ocean system, it is just too early to tell you, as there's a lot of uncertainty on exactly where a compact low may form. You can see here on the 850 millibar vorticity map from the GFS, here's that broad low. And the question would be, where does the low pressure form? Does it form on the eastern end, western end? And where does it happen? Where does it concentrate? And wherever this happens, greatly dictates exactly where it's going to go. If it's further east here, you could have more of an opportunity for the storm to come out to sea and maybe recurve away from any land areas. On the other hand, if you get something forming here on the western end, you could get the system tracking right into the Philippines, and maybe we have more of a threat there for tropical impacts from this system. And there's also intensity at play. You can see the European ensemble still showing a similar thing to what we had yesterday, where a stronger storm is more likely to recurve because we have the upper pattern more favoring that, and weaker systems more likely to track west into the Philippines, following the easterly trades, being aided by a subtropical ridge east of Japan. So we're going to continue to watch this in the North Indian Ocean system over the next few days, but of course, like I've said for the past several days in the Mariana Islands, Philippines, and across the Bay of Bengal and Andaman Sea, very important that you just monitor these systems as they do develop. No imminent threat right now, but certainly could be something to watch very closely as we head into the latter half of the month and into early June. That's all that I've got for today. Thanks for watching.